The all-new 22 Civic, now on sale at Team Honda on Segan Lane.
What's up?
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. Not too bad, actually.
A beautiful start. Well, look, Dr. Steve has been kind of the messenger that's been in trouble for the last month. So
months and months?
Let's credit him with this sunshine, with this good weather. It might be cloudy, but you know what? He is the bearer of good news today.
So, that's where a lot of people are like, okay, it's going to start to dry off, and all the mowing begins to happen. In my neighborhood was really a cacophony of just mowing sounds coming out of there. And if you look at future radar right now, it actually is quite telling. You're not seeing everything as you begin your morning, and that's been not the case over the last number of months. Yes, you see the afternoon showers pop up. That is more what we're expecting in South Louisiana in our summer months.
That's it. And y'all know, because we've dealt with this for the last couple days, for weeks, for a month now. So as we kind of figure out the evening hours, your drive home is probably going to be wet. So if you need to take care of things, maybe you need to wash the car, maybe you need to mow the lawn, take care of that now through noon. That's probably your best window to take care of all of that. Yeah. So you probably tell your friends, tell your neighbors.
Tell your friends, tell your mom and them.
Tell your mom and them. Tell them all of it. All of it. Because that's going to be much of the same for today.
Exactly.
Hey, if you have any business to take care of over in the LP, heads up. You should probably take care of that before 1 o'clock today.
This just coming in really to the newsroom over the last hour or so. Governmental offices in the parish of Livingston are closed for face-to-face, in-person business. And this ain't just a day or two. This ain't just past the weekend. They're shut down all next week into the month of August.
Yeah, and that's because employees at the government offices building in Livingston Parish, their family members are testing positive for the Delta variant. So Parish President Leighton Ricks is saying that this needs to happen. They're having a staffing shortage because of that. So if you have any urgent matters, again, you have until 1 p.m. today to visit the office, but after that, they're closing till August 2nd.
Yeah,
you can still call the office if you need things taken care of, like you have an emergency, but just know it may take some time to get official things done.
So this is happening because of things like this. That's what you're seeing right here. Look at that number. Look at that. 5,388 new cases, obviously, the Louisiana Department of Health. And I think what's important to note is we talked about positivity rates, right? So look at that 5,388. You look over to the right, you see the 32,000, almost 33,000 new tests. So that positivity, right over here, the new cases, is coming from those new tests. That positivity percentage is better than 15%, it's better than 16%. And so when you hear a number like that, then you get results like we're having in Livingston Parish, where they're shutting down entire governmental offices for better than a week.
Take a look at the state map too.
Just
look at highest risk. All of South Louisiana is in trouble right now. If it's not at highest risk, it's at high risk, like Calcasieu Parish. So pretty much all of the parishes in our viewing area are at the highest risk. And this is not new news. We've been talking about this really all week as we continue to track the Delta variant. But Matt, this is a problem.
It is. It's huge because I think for a lot of folks, well, look, let's be honest. For a number of folks, this was never an issue. It was never taken seriously. And then all of a sudden we began to pull back a little bit on the restrictions because we saw the numbers going in the right direction. But now Delta has showed up and absolutely beat down our doors, slammed on the brakes, put a lot of this progress into reverse. And you're seeing it. There's no lying about this. This is not made up. This is not manufactured. There's no reason to lie about this. This is happening. It's back. And these positivity rates are going up, and it's happening to a younger age group too.
Yeah, that's the concern about this. Because the Delta variant tends to spread more quickly, more rapidly, the concern is how are our local facilities preparing for that uptick? And they're already seeing that with children coming into these hospitals. The trend that they're seeing is that the majority of the patients that are coming in, that are getting this Delta variant, that are getting COVID-19, are unvaccinated individuals, and obviously children including, because it's not been available for kids well and under, so that's the problem. So what is the concern as we approach school coming up?
I mean, this is worrisome. As a parent, but in full disclosure, my wife and I have been vaccinated for a while. All three of our kids are of age and are now fully vaccinated, but understand what the vaccine is. It's not a cure, right? It is the best shield we have. So that if you were to if COVID was still to latch onto you, you have the tools, the best tools out there to beat that virus back. But it's not to say that you can't still be in amongst folks who are spreading this stuff around. And the 12 and under age group right now, it's not available.
No.
So now what begins to happen with Delta, and how does that begin to spread from school to community? And
Right.
I mean, it sounds like we've been talking about this before, because we have.
Right. We've gone through this again and again, and President Joe Biden was saying he hopes that emergency use authorization is available
Right.
for kids 12 and under this fall. But until we get to that point, until we get to a point where we reach herd immunity, we're
Right.
not going to see any improvement
Correct.
here. And we're not saying this to scare you. I know people like to say, oh, the media likes the scare tactics or whatever,
Right.
but this is the reality. When you see these case counts going up, you can't fake a COVID
No,
test.
we're not making this up. We're reporting
this
on
is
exactly
off of
what's
science and data.
Exactly right. So all these hospital facilities in our area are now adjusting, moving back to some of the, the visitor restrictions that we saw.
Ochsner's the latest one to be added to that list.
So just make that phone call before you go, so you understand. Know before you go.
Yes.
So you know what you're kind of walking out into. So all that's going on. Something else going on, actually happening today in Ascension Parish. Ascension Listens, the tour. Listens?
It's a word.
Listen.
It's a word.
The tour continues.
Yeah, so if you live in AP and you maybe have some grievances about how things
Yep.
are being run in the parish, Parish President Quint Mall wants to hear from you. We know things have been a little bit fiery regarding flooding, regarding drainage, regarding parish council members. There's a lot going on, and if you feel like you're not getting heard, if you feel like maybe you've got some issues that you want to address, this is the time to do it. They've had some productive meetings so far, and the series continues today in Galvez.
Yep, Galvez Middle School, again, same time frame. They're going to try and keep that kind of consistent, as you'll see. 6 o'clock tonight, Galvez Middle School, and then it'll pick back up again next week. You'll be at Dutchtown Middle, Central, Lowry, all these things in the week to come. But again, as Liz mentioned tonight, Galvez Middle School, the tour continues.
Yes, it does.
Speaking of Ascension, still out there, we were talking with our Kelly Hubbard this morning. School, as we just talked about, getting back into session. They got something going on out there. They're working with Care South Medical and Dental to kind of make a back-to-school one-stop shop for parents and kids.
Truly, free school supplies,
Right.
free immunization, so the regular ones that you get every year to year
Correct.
for
Right.
kids,
Right.
and then COVID-19 vaccines. They're doing all of this for free. That's on top of free food, free fun, free activities.
Yeah, backpack full of
all
supplies.
Of things, yes.
Yeah.
They're doing that in Donaldsonville. She's got a specific address for you, and I believe you don't have to register. You just show up to this event. It's just kind of first come, first serve. They will give out supplies until they run out.
Right.
But this is a great opportunity as we continue to see this rise in cases with the Delta variant. One-stop shop, just take care of everything before the school year.
So we talk about the rise in cases, and so my mind jumps forward a couple months as well. In a couple months, we have events being planned that have been postponed or canceled in the past, and that we're very much looking forward to. Are we going to run into the same kind of problem we've had?
Right.
We have to postpone and cancel these events that we've been looking forward to. One of the big ones, Jazz Fest, and look who they just signed.
Rolling Stones announced this morning that they are going to be one of the headliners of Jazz Fest. So you can start getting tickets, VIP, pre-sale tickets. You can get all of that. Yeah, that might change things. If you wanted to go see them, you thought about seeing them in the past, this might be your opportunity for it in that place.
And look, and again, all this can change. We just kind of showed you the map that could change all of this. But again, it's all within our power to change that map.
Yes.
So.
All within.
Here you go. Welcome to it, WAFB Plus, right?
Yeah, and we're trying to continue the conversation. So today's Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday.
We like to talk on Thursday. Well, we like to talk every day, but especially on Thursdays with you. We like to engage you in that conversation. And so with COVID, with a lot going on, we know this week has been data heavy. We know that we're talking about rising cases, the danger that Louisiana, South Louisiana is a hot spot.
Yeah.
This conversation extends globally, right?
It does.
And what event are we tracking on the other side of the world?
One where there's potentially still a planning for an opening ceremony tomorrow. Of course, we're talking about the Olympics in Tokyo. So we'd love to get your thoughts on the Olympic Games, continuing right now with everything going on in the world. Again, we're going to have this conversation over there on YouTube. We'll kind of shut it down on, Fire TV, Roku, Apple TV, as far as WAFB Plus, but continue the conversation on YouTube. But maybe not just the Olympics, but as we're talking about the major events, even in Louisiana, like Jazz Fest. What are your worries going forward?
Saints games.
Saints games.
School.
There's a lot, man. There's a lot coming up, but who knows what Delta has in store for us.
That's it. Well, we'll talk about it on YouTube Plus. I already see Chantel. Good morning. Thanks for joining us here on YouTube. Join us and Chantel over on that side. But in the meantime, thanks for kind of getting your briefing for the day here with us.
Y'all be safe. Stay dry. It'll be a little bit easier to do that today.
See you tomorrow.
The all-new 22 Civic, now on sale at Team Honda on Siegen Lane.
Hello again.
Welcome back to it, huh?
Yeah.
All right. So,
Yes.
all of that, if you're hanging out with us on YouTube, you just saw everything on WAFB Plus, but wanted to do a little conversation here on YouTube, trying to do it every Thursday. But I think you had it right this morning. We were talking about kind of one of the talkers globally, the Olympics set to start. So the world talking about that. The conversation is, should they start?
Yeah, and this is a real issue because before crews started really heading over to Tokyo, athletic crews, TV crews covering this, Japan declaring an emergency for the people there because COVID is still an issue. With Delta variant, COVID is still an issue.
Yeah.
So now the issue the conversation becomes, should the Olympics continue? Every day we're hearing about more American athletes testing positive for COVID-19. Obviously, when you talk about confining athletes to an Olympic village, they're going to be in tight quarters. Right. Yes, they have been quarantining. Yes, they have been testing every day. They've been doing all the things, but it's just with a virus like this, it's inevitable that it's going to spread.
We've heard the term already, the Olympic bubble has busted. This is a lot more complicated than, for instance, when the NBA did this, the NBA bubble, the Disney World, that whole thing. This is a little bit more complicated because it's not just people coming in from around the country to one location, everybody kind of staying in the hood. This is people coming in from around the world, varying levels of vaccination rates in all these different countries, heading off to Japan. And when you see a country in a city like Tokyo declare a state of an emergency past the Olympic Games, because of the Olympic Games, to make sure that everything is all but shut down because they don't want any more transmission, that's quite telling. And so these games, however they go off, are going to be very different than everything we've seen before. It's going to be fan-less for the most part, and then those athletes, like right from the competition field, back to the hotel room, no mingling around.
No celebrating.
That's the idea anyway. Does that actually happen?
Right.
And then what comes from this?
Yeah, and this is such a weird modified Olympics as it
is.
is because it was supposed to happen last year. It's the 2020 Tokyo Olympics that were just trying to happen this year. But obviously, with these daily reports of more athletes getting positive tests, you've got sponsors pulling out. Something big I saw this morning, Toyota, a major Olympic sponsor.
Major Olympic sponsor.
They are not airing any special Olympics ads. That is huge in terms of advertising dollars. A lot of Japanese foreign companies not advertising during the Olympics. They are losing out on tons of economic money.
I'm just walking over to read some of the some of their stuff on the big screen.
It's crazy.
It is crazy, and so that is going to be that's going to be a part of this reaction. We had some of the questions. What do you think about the rise in cases? Should events like we heard the athletes are avoiding getting vaccinated until they are complete? Right? It seems dangerous until after they compete. There is a lot of thought from some of the athletes that the vaccines could impact their performance, that kind of thing. So certainly among their concerns.
Which is valid. Honestly, I believe personally it is a valid concern.
I do.
Your body
as well.
is trained
Exactly
to do
right.
exactly what it's supposed
Exactly
to do. You
right.
get drug tested, you get everything. And if you don't know how that vaccine is going to affect your ability to compete that you've been training your whole life for this Olympic event, I understand that hesitancy.
And that's part of the question as well, because you just mentioned it. Training for this your whole life. And this is maybe the only shot for a lot of folks. It is the only shot for a lot of folks. And so how do you take that away from them? Well, I think the very last word in that sentence is what's important. Training for this your whole life.
Yeah.
Do you let this now dictate the rest of your life and how you're able to live it if you were to contract something like the coronavirus? It is such a wire and a fine line, a razor blade to walk down to find the right answer. It's such a difficult question.
It really is. And I really don't think there's one right answer here because these are very personal decisions. Your decision to get vaccinated is a very personal decision based on your beliefs. But we really just want to challenge you to really think carefully about keeping you and your family safe, right? It is a personal decision, but when you lay everything out on the table, you lay the data out, how many people have COVID, how many cases are spreading, how many people who have COVID now who didn't get vaccinated, just weigh your decisions very carefully because there is a lot at stake when it comes to protecting you and your family. But in this anomaly of the Olympics, a very different situation than an average family in, Gonzales.
Exactly.
So your needs are going to be different based on family to family.
And this is one of those global events that then could turn into, you heard the word so often back in the day, super spreader events. And so, but when you pull it back into maybe the local arena, for potential of super spreader events if Delta continues to just surge everywhere. There's a reason that they talk about Mardi Gras being the original super spreader event in New Orleans back in the day. Obviously it was canceled this year, but we're talking about the 2020. It was right at the beginning, like just how you know, and so then what happens? Was that the beginning? Was that the spark? So what about the major events in Louisiana? We were just talking about Jazz Fest.
I know. When you think about all those people packed in to watch, well, that's the Rolling Stones, but when you think about all the people packed in an arena, in a small space to watch a band, are people going to wear masks? I mean, we looked at the Milwaukee Black Celebration. 65,000 people packed in Deer District. I would assume, I did not see a lot of them wearing masks, because at this point it's we've moved on. So you want to assume that people are vaccinated, but you really just don't know. That's the hard part about it.
And we just don't know what Delta is going to turn into. We're seeing what it's doing coast to coast. It's better than 80% of the cases right now, and you obviously can see through that map from Department of Health in Louisiana what it's doing to Louisiana. Certainly in our viewing area right now, it's just like we've heard so many people say before. We heard Mayor Cantrell in New Orleans say it as well. We've seen this movie. We know what this is. We know how this ends. But we know how we can change the ending. It's just a matter of want to change the ending.
Another question that came up in friend groups is, do you think we'll go backwards for mask mandates and lockdowns? Honestly, I think city leaders are keeping everything on the table, but I don't think anything is out of the question. If it takes containing the virus in some way, shape, or form, I don't think anything is off the table.
That's exactly what you've heard from, for instance, Mayor Sharon Weston Broome in Baton Rouge, because we asked that question. Are there going to be more mandates or even just simply advisories? And the return question or the return quote we got was, we are having those conversations. So yeah, everything is on the table again. It all depends on where those numbers are, and those numbers relate to us. So it all depends on what we choose to do. And you've heard the scientists and the health leaders talk about it. It really could be, the pandemic is still here. This is still a COVID-19 pandemic, different variant, but it could be different from the previous because this could be a pandemic of the unvaccinated. The vaccinated can still get this. It's not this isn't a cure. The vaccine's more of think of it as a shield. But this could be a pandemic of the unvaccinated. But for a lot of folks, that is still their children who don't have accessibility to it. So what are we truly looking at?
That's a good question. And I think we're going to see that in the days to come as we continue to follow the trends, the number of cases, the number of hospitalizations and positivity rates, not only just across our state, but really across the nation and the world. This is something that every country, every government is struggling with here, is how do we handle this now that we have vaccines, but it is a personal choice for people to get them.
And we got some folks, again, on YouTube right now, the answer is maybe more of that middle ground. Wear the masks, don't cancel everything. And I think that's where a lot of people outside of Tokyo are landing. You talk to folks in Tokyo, like the average person in Tokyo, you've seen the stories, you've all seen the stories, they don't want them. They don't want the world showing up on their doorstep, bringing all their funk with them. So, but the rest of the world is, I think, right now, a lot of them falling on that middle ground. Find a way to try to make this happen, put all those security measures in place, that kind of thing. But again, they've already talked about the Olympic bubble is burst at this point.
And so we'll continue to track and see how many athletes test positive for the virus and how that impacts really the team sports. How is that going to, depending on how many people contract it, how many people have to quarantine and isolate, how will that impact team sports moving forward? Even talking about SEC Media Days, Greg Sankey saying if you don't have enough players to compete, you'll have to forfeit. They're not going to reschedule games like we did last year, this whole back and forth. It's just forfeit, that's it.
And they, what was it, 6 out of the 14 teams reported an 80% vaccination rate. And, Coach Ed Orgeron wasn't able to give numbers for the LSU Tigers, but when you talk about the percentage of vaccination, that's going to be very important when we think about big events like LSU football, SEC football, Saints, Jazz Fest, everything else, the Tokyo Olympics. It really is all about the percentages.
Yeah, we'll continue to track that and see what trends come out of it. Just one last check on questions or community conversation. And again, we don't just have to stick to this topic.
No, you guys can bring up anything you want.
You guys are nervous about or want to talk about.
I'm so nervous. And look, and this is not going to be how it always is. This just happens to be the topic du jour right now.
Across the world.
As this begins to blow up again. So, look, man, I'd love to get back to the day where we're talking something that is a much more joyful conversation. This just is the reality as we walk through our Thursday here in South Louisiana.
But the highlight in all of this is that we are figuring this all out together.
Trying.
This is not just us. This is the entire world
Trying.
kind of pacing this ourselves and see,
Yep.
well, how do we navigate through this? Because we all want to get to that other end of the tunnel, right?
Wouldn't it be nice?
Right. We want to start a normal fall season and do all the fall things, celebrate holidays with our families,
Yes,
go to
ma'am.
Saints games, go
Yes,
to
ma'am.
LSU games, go to school without worrying about getting COVID, all of those things. I know I hear time to say goodbye in my head.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Start singing the
Something
song.
sad,
So,
ballad.
but yeah, no, that's where
Yeah.
we'd like to be. That's where everybody wants to head. So let's make the right decisions.
That's it.
Yep.
Until next time, which is tomorrow at 9:15
Right.
on WAFB Plus.
All the pluses.
Yes. Have a good day.
Bye, y'all.
Go where summer leads you in an award-winning Mazda CUV. Find yours during Mazda's season of discovery.